All right, we are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. My name is Matthew Sagsveen, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9:01. First on the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. Cases number 29961, 29346, 29896, 30046, 30047, 29916, 29857, 29993, 29994, 29995, and 30146. The administrative docket starts on page 4 with case number 30133 and goes through case number 30003. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases on the administrative docket will be placed on the oil and gas website by the end of the week. If anyone here wishes to appear in one of the matters on the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there's opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into the hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. So today we will begin with case number 30126, which is an application of Marathon Oil Company for an order amending the applicable orders for the Murphy Creek Bakken Pool in Dunn County, North Dakota to one, terminate an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 26, 27, 34, and 35, Township 154 North, Range 96 West. And number 2, establish an overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit consisting of sections 22, 23, 26, 27, 34, and 35 in Township 154 North, Range 96 West, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on the unit, and 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. So all interested parties, please come forward. Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Marathon Oil Company. I'll have 3 witnesses testifying telephonically: Taylor Roberts, Sarah Beth Donaldson, and Shane Bruner, and I'll call them now.
Okay.
Mr. Examiner, let me, if I can email the calls not going through. What's the number here? Try to,
Do you press
That's
9 first?
I'll do it again. Tells me I'm joining the meeting, but then it says it can't connect me, so.
Really?
Yeah. It says you're not joining the meeting. It says, sorry, can't connect you.
Does that mean they haven't approved you to join?
Yeah, let me try that. What number?
328-8099.
Been a long time since I've used a phone.
Right?
I think you still owes money, so you can't.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Right? I think I still, it might be expired, though.
Certainly we could. Typically, if they don't answer, we just move ahead.
Okay. Mr. Mann, do you want to keep moving through the docket, and then at our next, we can take a break in a little bit, and then you can firm up the,
Yeah, that's fine. If we could do the Hess case, and then would we be able to come back to the marathon? 'Cause I'm not sure if the Kraken guys will be, well, I guess we'll see.
we're talking
You're
about
right.
case 30128.
Yeah. Move forward with that one and then come back to marathon?
That's fine. That's fine with me. So,
Try to,
due to some communication issues, we're going to temporarily move forward. We're going to stop discussion on case 30126 and move on to case 30128, which is the third.
I think this is marathon, I think. Let me. Hello? Taylor, is that you? All right, do you have everybody there? All right. Mr. Examiner, I have all the marathon people on the line now.
Okay, so notwithstanding what I just said, council's witnesses for case 30126 have appeared. So instead of moving on to case 30128, we will come back to case 30126 and continue with Council Mann's witnesses. Are you ready to proceed with your witness,
Yeah,
Mr. Mann?
Mr. Examiner, Taylor Roberts will be the first witness.
Okay. Is that Miss Roberts?
Mr.
Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts, are you online?
Sir.
Could you please raise your right hand, Mr. Roberts? And do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Mann, you may proceed.
Thank you. Taylor, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Taylor Roberts. I'm a land professional for Marathon Oil Company at an address of 990 Town and Country Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Taylor, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, sir.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Roberts be received as that of an expert.
All right, motion's granted.
And Taylor, let's start with your Exhibit L1. Can you identify for us the proposed spacing unit you're looking to create?
Sure. The proposed 3,840 acre spacing unit can be seen in the purple dashed lines. Sections encompassing inside that is sections 22, 23, 26, 27, 34, and 35 of Township 145 North, 96 West, Dunn County, North Dakota.
And Taylor, 26, 27, 34, and 35 currently constitute a 2,560 acre spacing unit, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're seeking to terminate that spacing unit to allow for the 3840 and the longer lateral, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's move on to L2. If you can just take us through your working interest in the proposed spacing unit?
Sure. Inside that same 3840 I previously described, you'll see the tracks where Marathon owns an interest, it doesn't, in white. This 3840 proposed, Marathon would have a 74.16% working interest, and you'll see the other parties listed at the bottom with their respective interest in this 3-mile spacing.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Roberts. I'd offer L1 and L2.
All right, commission staff have any questions of Mr. Roberts? Hearing no questions. Council, you may call your next witness.
Next witness is Sarah Beth Donaldson.
Ms. Donaldson.
I'm here.
Okay. Ms. Donaldson, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
All right, Council, you may proceed.
Okay, Sarah Beth, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Sarah Beth Donaldson. I'm an advanced geologist at Marathon Oil and have been for 10 years. Currently employed at Marathon Oil Corporation, located at 990 Town and Country Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Sarah Beth, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Donaldson be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Sarah Beth, let's start with G1, if you can take us through your structure map.
Okay. Depicted in G1 is the Upper Bakken Shale structure map with a contour interval of 20 feet. Full 3840 acre spacing unit is shown in the red dashed polygon with an average depth across the CSU of half a degree. The pink line from A to A prime is a cross section shown in Exhibit G2.
Okay, and Sarah Beth, let's move on to G2, if you can take us through that cross section.
Okay. The cross section from A to A prime shows our primary target intervals for the area. Here at the Middle Bakken. The Middle Bakken thickness is consistent across the cross section with a thickness variation of less than 2 feet.
Okay, and let's move on to Exhibit G3A. If you can describe for us how you would develop the proposed spacing unit?
Depicted in G3A is a plan of development for a single 3-mile section line well with a 3840 acre spacing unit with an estimated spud date of October 2023. We have planned a section line well 10 feet from east line. The 3-mile section line is part of a 6-well pad shown in Exhibit G3B. The cross sections 22, 27, and 34. All wells are planned Middle Bakken lateral targets, and the development was part of case number 29680.
Okay, and G3B, just describe what the full sort of development in the area would look like?
So as previously stated, in case number 29680, we had discussed the 3-mile scenarios where we're planning to drill across sections 22, 27, and 34, all targeting the Middle Bakken. This is a total 6-well pad.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Or staff members, any questions?
Sarah Beth, you're indicating that all your intended targets, or the well here is going to be a Middle Bakken well, but the existing wells on the existing 1280 of 2734, are those all Middle Bakken as well, or are they a mix of Middle Bakken and Three Forks wells?
Those are Middle Bakken as well.
Okay, so you're just ultimately coming in for 1920 development on the Middle Bakken.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah Beth, in sections 23, 26, and 35, have you had conversations with Burlington about drilling 3-mile laterals over there?
We have not. We're actually planning to wait until we get the results from our 3-mile pads. We have 2 currently slotted for drilling this year. So once it's successful, we're going to propose the development with ConocoPhillips for section 23 and essentially do the same thing as we plan to do ENA, the Isabel Hartman, across sections 21 and 22. We might propose to them. But we're going to have future discussions
Okay, thank you.
for that.
Sarah Beth, one more set of questions real quick. The well on section 22, is that a Middle Bakken target as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and,
It will be P&A'd prior to development.
okay, so that'll be plugged prior to your drilling of the 1920s when you get around to those wells.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah Beth, this is Bruce Hicks. When I was looking at your exhibit G3B, you indicated, I believe, that you were going to drill 6 wells, and you're only showing 5.
The sixth well, part of the same pad, is a section-line well that goes between 21, 22. Since that was part of an up-spacing unit, as prior docket case number 49680, that was already depicted in that one. It was our November 2022 hearing.
Okay, and I assume you will batch drill all 6 of these wells?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing none. Council, anything further?
Not for this witness.
All right, you may call your next witness.
Shane Bruner?
All right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bruner, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Shane, okay. Shane, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Alan Shane Bruner. I'm employed by Marathon Oil Corporation as a reservoir engineer. The Marathon Oil Corporation address is 990 Town and Country Boulevard, Houston, Texas 77024.
Okay. And do you go by Shane? Is that your preferred? Or do you?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And Shane, have you previously testified before the commission?
No, I have not.
Can I have you just briefly take us through your educational background and work experience?
Sure. I've got an undergraduate degree in communications and economics, a master's in, I've got an MBA from University of Texas, and I've got a master's in petroleum engineering from Harriet-Watt University.
Okay. And, oh, go ahead.
Sure. Last 10 years, I've worked for primarily in engineering capacities at Ryder Scott Company, Apache Corporation, and now Marathon Oil Corporation.
Okay. And Shane, are you familiar with the engineering-related matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you've put some exhibits together that you're going to address with respect to the spacing unit?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Bruner be received as that of an expert.
Does staff have any questions before I entertain the motion? All right, motion's granted.
And Shane, let's start with Exhibit E1. Can I have you take us through the reservoir data and economics then for the proposed well?
Sure. The one Middle Bakken horizontal well is a 3,840 acre DSU. In-place volumes are 17.33 million barrels with a recovery factor of 3.7%. Estimated ultimate recoverable oil volumes are 641,000 barrels and 526 million cubic feet of gas. The economics are a BFIT NPV 10 of 5.695 million, run at $50 flat.
Okay. And Shane, let's move on to Exhibit E2. Could you just briefly describe for us how you would intend to drill and complete the proposed well?
Sure. The drill and completion plan for the well is to run and cement a 7-inch casing past kickoff point, then run and cement a 5-inch liner approximately 15,000 feet further. We'll be completing 56 stages in a plug and perf manner. Total well cost is expected to be approximately $9 million. That includes location, facilities, and artificial lift costs.
Okay. And Shane, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve this spacing and allow the drilling of that lease line well, is that going to prevent waste and protect relative rights?
In my opinion, it will, yes.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Bruner. I'd offer E1, E2, and the gas capture affidavit.
All right, your exhibits are received. Staff, any questions?
Shane, this is Bruce Hicks. How do you plan to produce the well on artificial lift? What method?
It's my understanding that it would be initially ESP, then rod pump.
And when you produce this on an ESP, do you anticipate that you would have a fairly high GOR, or do you think it'll stick around that 820 that you're expecting?
I would expect it to stick around that 820.
Okay, typically, we've seen the gas-oil ratios rise substantially. I don't know if Murphy Creek, they have historically low GORs in this area, but we just want to make sure that if you are in a production method that's going to have appreciable gas beyond what you anticipate originally, that you make sure that that ONEOK, in this case, would be aware of it, so that midstream is not surprised when those wells come on.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing nothing further, counsel, do you have any additional witnesses or anything further?
No, not in this case, Mr. Examiner. Thank you.
Wade, you do have a gas capture plan, right?
Yeah, did you not get the affidavit with your exhibit
I
packet?
just didn't, did you go over that? I didn't.
I didn't go through sort of the content of it, but we submitted it.
I'm just curious, it says in there that if a connection to the gas pipeline is delayed or capacity unavailable, that Marathon will utilize portable NGL recovery equipment. So I'm wondering if there has been an issue in this area. I pulled up one of the wells nearby here and it's selling all the gas, so.
I don't think there is, but Shane, did you hear the question, and do you know, I mean, is it anticipated that this will get connected, or are there any issues that you foresee?
I don't know. I'd have to get back to you.
Okay.
Okay, if there does appear that there's going to be an issue, just make sure that you're contacting our production department so they know if that equipment's going to be set and so forth.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right,
Understood.
anything further, counsel?
No, Mr. Examiner.
All right, that will conclude the hearing for case number 30126. Next case on the docket is case number 30127. This is application of Marathon Oil Company for an order amending the applicable orders for the Killdeer Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 1 and 12, Township 145 North, Range 95 West, and sections 6 and 7, Township 145 North, Range 94 West, in Dunn County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. So all interested parties, please come forward. Mr. Mann, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Mr. Examiner. I have the same two witnesses appearing in the land and geology, but I'll have a different engineering witness.
All right, you may call your first witness.
Taylor Roberts.
All right, Mr. Roberts has already been sworn, so you may continue with your examination.
Okay. Taylor, let's start with your exhibit L1. Can you identify the proposed spacing unit we're looking at here?
Sure. Exhibit L1, you can see the proposed 2560 acre spacing unit outlined by the purple dashed polygon, being sections 6 and 7 of Township 145 North, 94 West, and sections 1 and 12 above Township 145 North, Range 95 West.
And Taylor, let's move on to L2, if you can take us through your working interest in the proposed spacing unit.
Sure. The same previously discussed 2560 acre spacing unit can be seen in the image below. Marathon has about a 47% working interest in this proposed 2560 spacing unit. Marathon operates units 1 and 12. XTO is the operator of sections 6 and 7, and we have discussed this 2560 acre spacing with XTO prior to this hearing.
Okay,
That's all unless there's questions.
okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions for Mr. Roberts. I'd offer L1 and L2.
Exhibits are received. Does staff have any questions? All right, hearing no questions, you may call your next witness, Mr. Mann.
And it's Sarah Beth Donaldson again?
All right, since Ms. Donaldson has already been sworn today, you may proceed with your questions.
All right, Sarah Beth, let's start with G1, if you can describe the structure underlying the proposed spacing unit.
Depicted in G1 is the Upper Bakken Trail structure map. The contour interval is 20 feet. The full 2560 acre spacing unit is shown in the red dashed polygon. It has an average depth of less than 1 degree. The pink line from A to A prime is the cross section shown in G2.
Okay, and let's move on to that cross-section, if you can take us through that exhibit.
The cross-section from A to A prime shows our primary target intervals for the area, both targeting the Middle Bakken and the Three Forks First Bench. The Middle Bakken and Three Forks First Bench thickness are consistent across the cross-sections with a thickness variation of less than 5 feet.
Okay, and then moving on to G3A, can you describe your proposed development plan for the spacing unit?
Depicted in 3GA is our plan of development for the single 2-mile section line well for the 2560 acre spacing unit, with an estimated set date currently set to be around May 2025, with the potential for an earlier set date as early as Q4 2023. We have planned this well directly on a section line. The 2-mile section line well is part of a pad shown in Exhibit G3B for the northern wells across sections 1 and 2 and 12, targeting both Middle Bakken and Three Forks First Bench. The full pad development is explained in the administrator case number 30143.
And then just moving on to G3B, touching on that, if you just want, with respect to the spacing unit you currently operate, describe what the full development will look like here.
The full development of the 2-section view includes off this pad 4 wells to the north. You can see we do have 2 wells in blue, noting that they will be P&A'd July 2023. The reason for this is they're both 2009 open hole completions. To the south of section 12, it is a county road, and so to limit the feasibility of a remote frac on this pad, we have decided to completely re-drill the 1 well. So you can note here, we're targeting both the Middle Bakken and Three Forks.
And Sarah Beth, I think you indicated this, but you've got a case on the administrative docket for today for increased density to allow for this development on 1 and 12, correct?
Correct. Yes, so full well count is 8, and then the southern sections 13 and 24 is 9.
Sure. I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions? All right, hearing none. Counsel, do you have any additional witnesses?
Yes, Julie Foster.
All right. Ms. Foster, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Could you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Julie, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes. My name is Julie Foster. I am a reservoir engineer for Marathon Oil, and Marathon's address is 990 Town and Country Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Julie, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have not.
Okay, can you briefly give us your educational background and work experience?
Sure. I graduated in 2011 from the University of Texas with a Bachelor of Science in Geosystems Engineering. I worked for 7 years at Halliburton in a variety of engineering and technical roles, and I have worked the past 5 years at Marathon Oil in a variety of engineering and project management roles.
And Julie, are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes.
Okay, and you've got a couple exhibits that you are going to testify to with respect to the spacing unit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Foster be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
Yes.
Okay, Julie, let's go on and start with E1. If you can summarize the reservoir data and then the economics for the proposed well.
The proposed well is a Middle Bakken well with an expected production of 634,000 barrels of oil. This is out of an original oil in place of about 16 million barrels for the 2560 acre unit, leading to a well recovery factor of about 4%. The well is expected to have positive returns with a BFIT NPV 10 of 2.6 million. These economics were ran at $50 per barrel flat.
Okay, and then moving on to E2, can you describe for us how you would intend to drill and complete the well?
Yes, the drill and completion plan for this well is our standard one, which is to run and cement 7-inch casing past the kickoff point, then to run and cement a 4.5-inch liner approximately 10,000 feet further. We'll be completing 37 stages in a plug-and-perf manner. The total well cost is expected to be around $8 million, and this includes location, facilities, and artificial lift costs.
Okay, and Julie, in your opinion, would creation of this spacing unit to allow for that lease line well prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions for Ms. Foster. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture affidavit.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions?
I just have one question for Sarah Beth. You indicated that the well may not be drilled until May of '25, and then you went on to say, but it could be as early as late '23. Why would you have a change?
Currently, we have some uncertainty with our drill rig schedule. We're trying to limit capital spent by reducing either rig gaps or postponing other pads, but ultimately, we're hoping to develop this full Section 112 DSU into both sequential full development of the area. So ideally, it would be in Q4 2023, but as it currently sits, due to some other rig scheduling, placed in 2025.
Okay. And Julie, I do have one question for you. You indicated that the drilling and completion costs were going to be around $8 million. The previous case that we just heard is also in Dunn County, and it was $9 million. Why is there such a difference in the costs?
This well is a 2-mile lateral, and the one we previously discussed was a 3-mile lateral.
Yeah,
So you're
that's
looking
good.
at increase
That's
in
a good
drilling and
reason.
completion.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing none. Council, anything further on this matter?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, that will conclude the hearing for case number 30127. Next on the docket is case number 30128. This is application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Wheelock Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, Township 156 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC. I will have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically: Derek Abrahamson, Jacob Smith, and Carson Noble. And I'll call them now.
Okay.
Wade Mann. It's doing that. I don't know. It says hasn't connected to the meeting, and then it says sorry, we can't connect you. So you get through everything. It says you're now joining the meeting, and then it says
What's your ID?
it's 194 511 35 pound. Yeah.
No passcode.
No. They'll ask for your name.
Can you set up
And it says
a
you're now joining the
Teams
meeting.
line with breakout rooms for each
And then-
case? So they can just log in for each case number,
That's the same thing that happened on the last call.
even on
I'm not
Teams.
sure.
Should be able to do breakout rooms.
I'm not sure if this is happening on our end. We did have to recently switch out our switch because we were having some issues with this phone.
Yeah.
But it can still
Well, but
call out, so I
have
don't
him-
understand.
have
why-
Right,
Council
but,
prep it.
and that's the exact same thing that happened on that marathon was a Teams one too, and the same thing happened. It said it was connecting.
Could have done it once.
And then it,
We'll probably have to call.
I've done it.
I'll shoot him an
we've
email
done it
and
in
see if they can.
mediation.
Mr. Examiner, can I send an email and see if they can call in again?
You may. So let's go off the record for a few minutes until Mr. Mann can connect with his witnesses. Good point. All right, we're back on the record. It's 9:44, and this is case 30128. Counsel, you may call your first witness.
First witness is Derek Abrahamson.
All right, Mr. Abrahamson, could you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay.
Derek, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. It's 1501 McKinney Street. Hold on a second. Wait here. Hold on. Okay, sorry. 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010, and I'm a land negotiator.
Okay. And Derek,
Yep.
sure. Have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the spacing unit?
I am.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. Abrahamson be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Derek, let's start with exhibit number 1. Can you identify the proposed spacing unit for us?
Yeah, sure. Exhibit 1's a location map of Township 156 North, Range 98 West, Williams County. In blue is the existing, one being section 6 and 7, the other being sections 5 and 8. And in green is the proposed 2560 spacing unit being sections 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Let's move on to exhibit number 2. Can you take us through your working interest in the spacing unit?
Yep, Exhibit 2 is a land plat. In the yellow, you will see the Hess-operated Ghost Eaton DSU consisting of sections 6 and 7. In the Ghost Eaton, Hess owns roughly 69%, Continental 11%, and others 10%. In the blue, sections 5 and 8 is the stand-up 1280 Go John Hess-operated DSU. Hess owns roughly 47%, Continental 21%, others 11%, and the total combined working interest in the proposed 2560 spacing unit, the Hess would own roughly 57%, Continental 17%, and others 15%.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 1 and 2.
Exhibits are received. Any questions from staff? All right, hearing none. Counsel, you may call your next witness.
Next witness is Jacob Smith.
All right, Mr. Smith, are you on the line?
I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Jacob, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yep, I'm Jacob Smith. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a geologist. Business address 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And Jacob, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
I would move the testimony of Mr. Smith be received as that of an expert.
All right, motion's granted.
And Jacob, let's go on to exhibit 3. Can you take us through the structure map?
Yes, sir. Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 outline in green. This is a top middle Bakken structure map with a 50-foot contour interval showing formation dipping to the south. The purple A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in the next exhibit.
And then let's move on to exhibit number 4, and if you could take us through the cross-section exhibit.
Okay, this is a stratigraphic cross-section plotting on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
And let's see, that's all the questions I have for Mr. Smith. I'd offer the exhibits 3 and 4.
Exhibits are received. Does staff have any questions? All right, hearing none. Counsel, you may call your next witness.
Next witness is Carson Noble.
All right, Mr. Noble, are you on the line?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Carson, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, I'm Carson Noble. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a reservoir engineer. The business address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Carson, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the engineering-related matters associated with the spacing unit?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Noble be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Carson, let's start with Exhibit 5. Can you just identify how you would intend to develop the spacing unit?
Yes. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development for Section 6.7 and Section 5.8. The highlighted dashed line in the middle is the proposed lease line well, and will be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation.
Okay, and let's move on to Exhibit number 6. If you can take us through the reservoir data and economics.
Sure. Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single Middle Bakken well in its Goliath area. The expected EUR is about 651,000 stock tank barrels with a 3% recovery factor. The economics will run at a $62 per barrel WTI pricing at 100% working interest. The expected NPV of this well is about $11.2 million with a rate of return in excess of 100%.
Okay. So Carson, in your opinion, would creation of the spacing unit to allow for the lease line well prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes, it would.
I have no further questions for Mr. Noble. I'd offer Exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture affidavit.
Exhibits are received. Does staff have any questions?
Carson, do you plan on batch drilling the lease line well with all the rest of the Go John wells?
Yes.
And then do you plan on drilling those about the same time as the Seton wells over in 6 and 7?
The Seton wells will be drilled. Sorry, I'm getting an echo. The Seton wells will be drilled about a few years after the Go John.
So can you say that one more time at the end about how long after the Johns?
A couple of years later.
Okay. Is there a reason for that?
We try to manage overall throughput into our midstream capacity, and we also try to mitigate frac hits, which hurt new and online wells.
Okay, thank you.
Carson, your exhibit number 5, is the lease line well proposed to be west of the section lines?
Yes, roughly 160 feet west of that section line.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing none. Council, anything further on this case?
No, Mr. Examiner. Thank you.
All right, that will conclude the hearing for case number 30128. Next on the record is case number on the docket is case number 30129. Which is the application of Neptune Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Fort Buford, and/or Briar Creek Bakken pools in Williams County, North Dakota, to establish an overlapping stand-up 1920 acre spacing unit described as Section 4, 9, and 16 in Township 152 North, Range 104 West, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. So,
Yeah,
Mr.
thank
Mann?
you, Mr. Yep. If I may answer the witness or Colin.
you may.
Alan? You guys all there? All right, thank you. Mr. Examiner, Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Neptune Operating LLC. All 3 witnesses appearing telephonically. I believe they're all on the line, and it will be Alan White, Brian Lucero, and Matt Luna.
All right. Council, you may call your first witness.
First witness is Alan White.
All right, Mr. White, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Alan, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yep, my name is Alan White. I'm employed by Kraken Resources as Vice President of Land. Our address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Alan, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And Alan, are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. White be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Alan, let's start with L1, if you can identify the area that we're talking about today.
Yep, Exhibit L1 is a regional locator map of the Fort Buford, Buford, and Briar Creek Bakken fields. If you flip over to L2, it is a depiction of the overlapping spacing unit that we are proposing here today, which kind of encompasses a bit of each of those three fields. The particular field, DSU is sections 4, 9, and 16. On Exhibit L2, you will see an allocation factor of Neptune's working interest in the proposed spacing unit, where we are representing 41.58% of this spacing unit. I'd like to add that this was a previous spacing unit on a 1280 basis, where Cord had recently plugged and abandoned the well you see there traversing on the east side of sections 4 and 9. We have communicated with Cord in this particular matter, and they had no objection to us spacing over this acreage, and we were going to work with any other operators or non-operators that also own working interest in this area.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. White. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions?
Alan, this is David Tabor. When did Cord plug that well, do you know?
I think in April of this year.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hearing no additional questions, council you may call your next witness.
Brian Lucero.
All right, Mr. Lucero, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, sir. My name is Brian Lucero. I am employed by Kraken Resources as their geology manager. Our address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas, 77024.
Brian, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Lucero be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Brian, let's start with the structure map. Can you take us through that exhibit?
Yes, sir. Exhibit G1 is a structure map across the three fields, Fort Buford, Buford, Briar Creek, on a 10-foot contour interval showing regional dip roughly to the east. It also shows the location of our type log.
Let's move on then to the type log. Can you take us through that exhibit?
Yes, sir. G2 is our type log for the area, the strength number 1, showing our middle Bakken target interval.
I have no further questions for Mr. Lucero. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions?
Brian, this is Bruce Hicks. You indicated that you were employed by Kraken, and of course, this is a Neptune application. Could you just tell us what the relationship is between the two?
Neptune is a subsidiary company under the Kraken Resources umbrella.
Okay, and do you intend to operate under Neptune in some cases and Kraken on others?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing none, Councilor McCullough, next witness.
Next witness is Matt Luna.
All right, Mr. Luna, are you on the line?
I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Matt Luna. I'm employed by Kraken Resources as Vice President Development. The business address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas 77024.
And Matt, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
I have, yes.
And are you familiar with the engineering-related matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Luna be received as that of an expert.
Your motion's granted.
Okay, and Matt, let's start with Exhibit L1. Can you describe for us how you would plan to drill and complete the proposed wells?
Yes, Exhibit E1 is our lateral wellbore schematic for the proposed 15,000-foot laterals, showing the four casing string designs, the conductor, the surface casing, intermediate, and production liner. For the liner, we plan to utilize cemented liner and plug-and-perf technology and space the stages about 167 feet apart.
Okay. Let's move on to E2. Can you describe for us how you would intend to develop this proposed spacing unit?
Yes, so Exhibit E2 shows the proposed development diagram. The proposed 1920 is shown in the solid blue lines, the proposed DSU that we're would like to form. The dashed lines represent the three undeveloped locations that would be developed within the proposed DSU. The easternmost location shown on the graph there, the lateral portion in section 16 shows it going directly north-south. We actually plan to develop this angled northwest to southeast to fully and optimize drain section 16. So we can submit a supplemental exhibit to show that. But instead of the lateral section in section 16 for the easternmost lateral going north-south, we would angle it to fully drain section 16. Within this proposed development diagram, Neptune does operate the two 15,000-foot laterals directly west of it. And, that's just something to point out that we feel comfortable here in this proposed DSU in developing those locations shown here.
Sure. Let's move on then to the reservoir data for the spacing unit in Exhibit E3.
Exhibit E3 shows reservoir data for the proposed 1920. In this area, the middle Bakken thickness is roughly 30 to 40 feet. Oil in place here is about 6 million per 640 acres. In the reserve section, in the spacing unit of the 1920 acres, we do model an increasing GOR here as we observe across the basin. In the EUR row there, that 1440 acre DSU should actually say 1920. And the EUR shown there should actually be 775 as well. So overall, to sum our reservoir data up, we estimate an EUR for these wells of roughly 775,000 barrels of oil.
Okay, let's move on to E4. Can you take us through the economics for the proposed wells?
E4 shows the economics for the wells in the proposed 1920. As mentioned in the previous exhibit, the estimated ultimate recovery is around 775,000 barrels of oil. At a $10 million well capex and a $70 flat oil price, we estimate roughly a 75% IRR and about a $2.6 million PV10.
And Matt, in your opinion, would creation of this 1920 to allow for these longer laterals, is that going to prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
That's correct.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture affidavit.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions?
Matt, the application was for 4 wells on the 1920. You're depicting the 3. You only intend to drill the 3 additional wells on the 1920 at this point?
That's correct.
And you indicated you'd fan that toe of the lateral in 16 to the east corner. Would you also fan the other laterals to kind of evenly space?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Matt, do you plan to drill these 3 wells from a common pad?
Yes, we do.
And that'll be located in the north of Section 4?
Yes, it is. It's identified there in Exhibit E2 with the square with the 3 inside of it.
Thank you.
All right, hearing no additional questions, council, do anything further in this case?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, that will conclude the hearing. Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll have to leave the record open for that revised E2.
You want the revised development map that shows is that what you?
Yeah, Matt offered that he was going to submit that.
Yep, okay. Matt, can you get us that new map, like in a week?
Yes, we could have that today.
Okay. Just hold the record open till the end of the week, just in case. So.
Okay. We will hold the record open for case number 30129. Anything further, council?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, so we will move on to case number 30130. And this is an application of Kraken Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Hebron Bakken Pool, Williams County, North Dakota to one establish an overlapping stand-up 1440 acre spacing unit described as all of section 34 in the west half of section 35, township 156 north, range 104 west, all of sections 3 and 10 in the west half of sections 2 and 11, township 155 north, range 104 west, and authorize 2 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit. 2, to establish an overlapping stand-up 1440 acre spacing unit described as all of sections 15, 22, and 27 in the west half of sections 14, 23, and 26, township 155 north, range 104 west, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit. And 3, establish 2 overlapping stand-up 2880 acre spacing units described as sections 34 and 35, township 156 north, range 104 west, and sections 2, 3, 10, and 11 in township 155 north, range 104 west, and sections 14, 15, 22, 23, 26, and 27 in township 155 north, range 104 west, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on each such unit, and 4, granting such other relief as may be appropriate.
Thank you,
All right,
Mr.
council.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Kraken Operating LLC, and I have the same 3 witnesses testifying in this case as the previous.
All right, council, you may call your first witness.
And Alan White will be the first witness.
All right, Mr. White, you've been sworn, so I've already been sworn, so just remind you are under oath, and you may proceed.
And Alan, let's go through the land exhibits, starting with L1, and if you can identify the area that we're looking at with respect to these spacing units.
Sure. Exhibit L1 is a regional locator map of the Hebron Bakken Field, which is where all of these units are located. If you flip over to Exhibit L2, it's a depiction of the first proposed spacing unit consisting of the west half of section 35 and all 34, 156, 104, and then the west half of sections 2 and 11 and all of sections 3 and 10 of 155, 104. I have depicted Kraken's allocated working interest in the proposed spacing unit. You will see that Kraken is working with a 32.5% roughly working interest in the spacing unit. I would like to also add that one of our non-op partners is Lime Rock Resources, who owns around 40% in sections 10-5 in the west half of sections 11 and 14. We have been in contact with them. They have not issued any sort of issue with us forming this unit. And we will continue to talk with the other working interest partners in here, so we have mutual agreement on the development of this unit. There's also some unleased interest that we're currently working through in sections 34 and 35, and then in sections 2 and 3. So Kraken projects that working interest allocation in that DSU will increase over time as well.
Sure.
If you move on to section 3, or Exhibit L3, it's a depiction of the second spacing unit we're asking for. You will see Kraken's working interest allocation here of 46.43%. Again, Lime Rock Resources owns a significant amount of working interest in both of these DSUs. Existing DSUs being 40% in 10, 15, and west half 11 and 14, and they own roughly 35% of the working interest in section 22 and 27 in the west half of 23 and 26. Moving on to the overlapping 2880s, you will see on Exhibit L3 the sections 34 and 35 of 156, 104, and then 2, 3, 10, and 11 of 155, 104. I have listed out Kraken's allocated working interest in the current existing spacing units. You will see that, again, we are representing a lower working interest in here. Lime Rock is an operator, one of the non-ops in here that I've previously discussed, and also Ford operates the spacing unit consisting of east half of the west half of 35 and 2, and along with the east half of 35 and east half of 2, and we will be in communication with them to have a mutually agreeable plan moving forward on these wells. Moving over to Exhibit L5, it's the southern 2880. I have listed out Kraken's working interest in each of the existing spacing units, and whereas you see that Kraken owns 64.3% of the working interest of this overlapping spacing unit, we also operate all of the existing spacing units comprising of this overlapping unit.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. White. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are received. Questions from staff? All right, hearing none. Council, let me call your next witness.
Next witness is Brian Lucero.
All right, Mr. Lucero, you've already been sworn today. I'll just remind you you are under oath, and council, you may proceed.
Thank you. Brian, let's start with G1. If you can take us through the structure map and the geology underlying the proposed spacing units.
Yes, sir. Exhibit G1 is a structure map based on the top of the Middle Bakken Formation across the Hebron field. This map is on a 50-foot contour interval and shows regional dip roughly to the southeast. It also shows the location of our type log.
Okay, and let's move on to G2. Can you take us through your type log?
Yes, sir. Our type log is the full 35-2, and it shows the Middle Bakken target interval, as well as a representative log across the Three Forks Formation.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Lucero. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are received. Council, any questions? Or staff, any questions? All right, hearing none. Council, let me call your next witness.
Matt Luna.
All right, Mr. Luna, you've been sworn today. I'll just remind you that you continue to be under oath.
And
Okay,
Matt,
thank you.
okay. Matt, let's start with E1. Can you describe how you drill and complete the wells in the proposed spacing units?
Exhibit E1 shows on our 15,000-foot lateral wellbore schematic, identifying all casing strings. Within the liner, we plan to cement the liner and use plug-and-perf technology and space the stages roughly 167 feet apart.
Okay. And then let's move on to E2. Can you take us through your proposed plan of development on each of the 1440s as well as the two 2880s that you're proposing?
And so Exhibit E2 shows the proposed development diagram for case 3130. What's shown on the map here is the sections highlighted yellow reflect acreage that Kraken does hold leasehold and working interest ownership in. And the blue boxes show the proposed DSUs. The first two boxes, moving west to east, the first two boxes standing on top of each other represent the 1440s that we are proposing to form. The first 1440 in section 34, 3, and 10, and the second 1440 in 3, 22, and 27. Within each 1440, we are proposing to develop the 3-mile lateral shown there in the dashed lines. In addition to the 1440s, we are also proposing to form two 2880s. The 2880s is shown with the two blue boxes east of the 1440s that we just walked through. Within the two 2880s, we also plan to drill one 15,000-foot lateral in each 2880. And you can see the 15,000-foot lateral going north comprised of that 2880, and the one going south is the other 2880. We plan to develop these wells on one pad, which would represent a 5-well pad. The location of the pad is shown there in that square box with the 5 identified within it. We do operate the PDPs, the producing wells, in section 10 and 3 and in section 22 and 27. One last note before moving on. In the southernmost DSU here on this map, in sections 31, 36, 35, and 34, there are 3 extended laterals shown there that we recently drilled within the past 3 to 6 months. So we are active in this area, and with this proposed development, we view it as the most optimal and efficient to continue developing across our acreage in this area.
Sure. Matt, let's move on to E3. If you can take us through the reservoir data for these spacing units.
So E3 shows the geo and subsurface properties and the reserve estimations for the proposed case here. Within the reserves, what's shown here reflects the 1440 acre DSU. We estimate an EUR of 630,000 barrels of oil. And similar to previous case, we also do model an increased GOR here. As we install ESPs, we observe that GOR increases, and once we install rod pumps for the life of the well, we see GORs stabilize.
Okay. Let's move on then. If you can take us through the economics for the proposed wells, Exhibit E4.
Exhibit E4 shows the proposed economics for the 15,000-foot laterals shown in the dash lines on Exhibit E2. As mentioned in the previous exhibit, the estimated ultimate recovery for these proposed laterals is roughly 630,000 barrels of oil. For well capex of $10.5 million and at a $70 flat price tag, We estimate, roughly 100% IRR for these wells, and roughly 4.5 million of NPV10.
Okay. Matt, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve these proposed spacing units to allow for these longer laterals, is that going to prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
That's correct.
I have no further questions for Mr. Luna. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture affidavit.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions?
Matt, in the exhibit E2, you're gonna drill 2 wells in the north spacing unit, 1 well in the south spacing unit. And obviously, there's no wells for the last 2 miles going north. Did you consider drilling 2 wells in the south spacing unit?
So that's a good question. Sorry, I'm echoing over here. Let's try this again. So we did consider that. Well, one thing we wanted to do here is remain on what we consider optimal spacing to effectively and efficiently drain these sections. What we observe, if we did put another well in section 13, 22, and 27, that would be, per our observations, likely too tight between wells next to depletion and next to a new well. And so the justification going north there is that we're only within 5,000 foot of the lateral where what we would consider too tight, and the remaining 10,000 foot of the lateral, we would achieve the benefit of the virgin undeveloped spacing and allow the optimal drainage for those 2 sections. We still feel that section 10 there would achieve optimal drainage. It is 1,000 feet apart there in section 10. Our main target for spacing in this area is roughly 1,000 to 1,500 feet. So if we did drop another well in 13, 22, 27, the interwell spacing across the entire lateral being surrounded by depletion on the east side and a new well from the west, we don't view that as optimal.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Matt, this is Bruce Hicks. Looking at your exhibit E2, you indicated that on the south end of this map here that you've drilled those, it appears a 3 or 4 well pad. Were those recent completions?
Those were recent drilled to TDs. They are currently cased and waiting on frac. We plan to move a frac crew in within the next few months.
Okay, and it appears that there are 3.5 mile laterals. Did you have any issues drilling those wells?
We had no issues drilling those wells in the lateral portion. We observed that the drilling to TD time for those 3 wells was roughly the same as our 15,000 foot laterals, our 3 mile laterals.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hearing no additional questions, council, anything further in this case?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, that will conclude the hearing for case number 30130. Next on the agenda, on the docket is case number 29957. This case was previously heard. It was docketed again to allow for proper publication in Billings and Divide County. This is an application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order regarding final cutting and capping of casing on plugging and abandoned wells operated by Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC as an exception to NDAC sections 43020315, 43020334, and 43020334.1, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Counsel, you may proceed with your case.
30131. Which one?
29957. Is there any additional?
29, yeah. Mr. Examiner, Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC. Mr. Examiner, we presented the testimony and witnesses in this case previously on the initial docket date, and we don't have anything in addition to add. Is my understanding that it's there were 2 of the counties that were involved that weren't able to publish, and this is addressing that. So we don't have anything else.
Okay, so the publication has been made in those counties?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Staff, any questions? All right, that will conclude the hearing for case number 29957. Next on the docket is case number 30131. And this is application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP for an order amending the applicable orders of the Charleston Bakken, Hawkeye Bakken, and/or Antelope Sanish pools to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as all of sections 35 and 36, Township 153 North, Range 95 West, and the west half of Section 3, all of Section 4, and the east half of the west half of Section 5, Township 152 North, Range 95 West, in McKenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP. I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically, and I believe they are all on the line now, and it will be Pushpa Nelikatil, Brian Siddick, and Nick Stavisky.
All right, Counsel, let me call your first witness.
Pushpa Nelikatil, first witness, Ms.
And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, Miss Pushpa
Nelikatil.
Nelikatil.
Yep.
All right. Ma'am, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Could you please?
Yep.
Could you please raise your right hand? And do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
And could you spell your name for the record, please?
Sure. My first name is spelled Pushpa. My last name is spelled Nellikkatil.
And
Right.
Pushpa, can you tell us by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and also give us your business address?
Yes, I am employed by Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company as a land negotiator, and our business address is 925 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas 77079.
And Pushpa, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Nellikkatil be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Pushpa, let's start with your exhibit 1.1. Can you identify the proposed spacing unit for us?
Yes. So Exhibit 1.1 is the location map of our proposed unit. The 2560 spacing unit will be comprised of all of sections 35 and 36 in Township 153 North, Range 95 West, and then the west half of Section 3, all of Section 4, and the east half of the west half
of Section 5 in Township 152 North, Range 95 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota.
All right, and then let's move on to 1.2, if you can take us through the working interest in that proposed spacing unit.
Yes, so the Exhibit 1-2 is a breakdown of the working interest owners in the 2516 acre spacing unit. Wellington is represented to have a majority interest in the unit of 47.03%. The other working interest owners and their corresponding interests are also listed on Exhibit 1.2.
Okay, and then let's move on to just briefly touch on the, kind of the breakdown of the working interest of the underlying base units.
Sure. So the breakdown of the working interest and the underlying working interest units, there are four. The Washburn DSU is operated by Burlington. The HM Northern DSU is operated by Hess. The Sequoia DSU is operated by Burlington. And then the AN Evansville, which is operated by Hess. So two of the units are operated by Burlington and two of the units are operated by Hess. We have communicated with Hess regarding our application, and they did not express any objections to our application.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions that offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions for Ms. Alcatel? All right, hearing none. Thank you. Counsel, you may call your next witness.
Brian Siddick?
Yes.
All right, is it Mr. Siddick?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
SciTech, sorry, Brian. SciTech.
All right. Mr. SciTech, could you please raise your right hand? And do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
And Mr. SciTech, could you spell your name for the record, please?
Brian, BRIAN SITEK.
All right, thank you.
And Brian, can you tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, I am employed by Constable Phillips as a geologist. And the business address is 925 North Elton Parkway, Houston, Texas 77079.
And Brian, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes,
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
I have.
Okay, and you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. SciTech be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Brian, let's start with Exhibit 2.1. Can you take us through your structure map and the geology underlying the spacing unit?
Yes, so Exhibit 2.1 is a structure map of the Upper Bakken Shale. The structural contour interval is 50 feet. The Upper Bakken Shale is representative formation, or the structure of the Upper Bakken Shale is representative for the structure of the target formation, in this case, which would be the Middle Bakken. And we can see on the structure map the proposed 2560 acre unit outlined in red. And also indicated just to the west of that unit is a star showing type log location, which will be on the next exhibit. What we can see in this structure is that it appears rather gentle over the proposed spacing unit, and there appear to be no, impediments to development of a well on the spacing unit.
Okay, let's move on to your type log then, Exhibit 2.2.
So the type log shown here is the Hoover Walken 2234 pilot hole. I'm showing a depth track, DVD, and gamma ray. I'm also showing the interpreted formation top, and then I've indicated that the Middle Bakken is our target with the star. This type log is representative for is generally representative for the area and the proposed spacing unit. So I consider this a fair representation of what we might expect in the reservoir during operation.
Sure. And then finally, let's move on to Exhibit 2.3, and if you can take us through your proposed development plan for the spacing unit.
Sure. So, on Exhibit 2.3, I'm showing the existing wells in the area and then outlining the proposed spacing unit in red. I'm also showing the proposed location of this, of the well we would drill in this unit with the blue dashed line there to the south, on the south side of the Washburn DSU. The surface hole would be on the east side of the DSU, and we would drill this well east to west along the unit line.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Sytek. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions for Mr. Sytek?
Brian, with the wells to the south having heels and toes, are you planning on locating the well on the section line still?
It'll be, sorry, I was getting some echo. It'll be close to the section line. We'll certainly, do talk with our drilling department and do an AC evaluation. So, within a few feet of the section line is probably where we will plan the well.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, those wells that are approaching from the south, say on the west half of 4, how close do those get to the section line at the toe?
At the toe, typically, most of the last take points we see are the toes are about 100 to 150 feet away from the section line, but the last take points are a bit further than that. But it will vary well to well, depending on operational conditions. But that again would be part of the review we would do with our drilling department, and then we would modify the lateral placement kind of based on those results.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hearing no additional questions. Thank you, Mr. Sytek. Council, do you have any additional witnesses?
Yeah, I do. Nick Stavisky.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Stavisky, are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and behalf and belief?
I do.
Could you spell your name for the record, please?
Nicholas, Nicholas, it is CSTA, Victor, I-S-K-N.
All right, thank you.
And Nick, can you tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, I'm working as a reservoir development engineer for ConocoPhillips, and the business address is 925 North Ocean Parkway, Houston, Texas 77007.
And Nick, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And do you have familiarity with the engineering-related matters associated with the spacing unit?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Stavisky be received as that of an expert.
Motion's granted.
And Nick, let's start with Exhibit 3.1. Can you describe how you would drill and complete the proposed well?
Yeah, so again, this is this is a standard 3-string design, so we'll set the surface casing at about 1,800 feet, sealing up all the anticipated aquifers, and then we'll put our intermediate production string 7-inch, set it in the middle Bakken about around 11,000 MD, and then we'll set our cemented liner with about a 30 to 40 stage completion below that, using a plug and perf design targeting the middle Bakken.
Okay. Let's move on to 3.2 then, if you can summarize the reservoir data for us for the proposed spacing unit.
So again, yes, we basically use our petrophysical model for these for the reservoir fluids and data. So you just take an average of the properties across the DSUs in question. So a little bit higher in this area with about 45 feet of thickness, about 6% porosity. Oil saturation is relatively high at 77%. And these parameters are used along with the formation volume factor to calculate the oil in place. And then we use our type curve to develop the estimated oil recovery, and then use that to estimate the EUR, or the recovery factor per well. So again, nothing here that's too different from other wells we've drilled around the area.
Sure. Let's move on to 3.3 then, and if you could take us through the economics for the proposed well.
Yep, so here, estimated our working interest, NRI, and gross well cost. So here's just our assumptions used, along with the EUR, and then below we just kind of have our estimated NPV payout, rate of return, and the profit to investment ratio. So again, we view this as an economic well that would be willing to deploy our capital in.
Okay. And Nick, in your opinion, if the spacing unit's approved to allow for this section line well, would that prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Stavisky. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture affidavit.
Exhibits are received. Does staff have any questions? All right, hearing none. Anything further in this case, council?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, that will conclude the hearing for case number 30131. So we've been going for a while now. Should we go off the record and take a short break? Probably. All right, we'll go back on the record at 10:51, and we are going to continue with, or start case number 30132, which is application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Berg and/or Green Lake Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 1920 acre spacing unit described as Sections 5 and 6, Township 159 North, Range 99 West, and Section 1, Township 159 North, Range 100 West, in Williams County, North Dakota, and to authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. So, council?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Throne, P.O. Box 6590 in Sheridan, Wyoming, appearing on behalf of Phoenix Operating LLC. I have 3 witnesses. One is in the room. Mark Johnson will be the land witness. I have 2 on the telephone. Got them on? 2 on the telephone. Geology will be Nick Daniele, and engineering will be Brandon Allen. And Nick and Brandon, are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
All right, council, you may call your first witness.
I call Mark Johnson. Mark, would you please state your name and who you work for and what the address is?
Mr. Johnson, before you begin, could you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
All right, you may begin.
My name is Mark Johnson. I'm employed by Phoenix Operating LLC. I'm the Vice President of Regulatory, and my address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado, 80237.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert witness in petroleum land matters by this commission?
I have.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
I am.
I would ask that Mr. Johnson be accepted as an expert witness in petroleum land matters.
Your ask and motion is granted.
Mark, have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits for this hearing?
I have.
Beginning with Exhibit 1, please locate the proposed spacing unit on a broad background that is subject to this hearing.
This is Exhibit 1, just a regional map that shows the proposed DSU in the north part of Williams County, right on the divide county line.
Moving on to Exhibit 2, please explain the same thing in more detail.
Yeah, as you can see, it's the box, the horizontal box, and sections 5 and 6 of 159.99 and section 1 of 159.100 is the proposed 1920 spacing unit.
You have labeled other drilling and spacing units as future Phoenix operated units. Would you please explain those to the staff?
Yes, the last month we did the one to the west, the stand up to the west. We are proposing in July to do the 3 stand ups to the east. The 3 1280s that you see in 159.98 are already properly spaced, so that's kind of what we have going on in this area.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 3, would you please discuss Phoenix's working interest?
Yeah, Phoenix currently has 48.2% in the proposed spacing unit. We have deals papered for another 9.6% that are subject to close in the next 30 days, which would bring our working interest to 57.8%.
I have no further questions for Mr. Johnson and ask that Exhibits 1 through 3 be admitted into the record.
Exhibits are received. Staff have any questions for Mr. Johnson? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You may call your next witness, counsel.
Next witness is on the phone. It's our geology witness, Nick Daniele. Nick, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Mr. Daniele, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, sir.
All right, could you please raise your right hand? And do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
All right, you may proceed.
Okay, Nick, would you please state your name and work address for the record, and I think it would be prudent for you to spell your last name as well.
Yes, my name is Nick Daniele, Daniele. I work for Phoenix Operating LLC. Address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado, 80237.
And in what capacity are you employed by Phoenix?
I am the Vice President of Geology.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert witness in petroleum geology by this commission?
Yes.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
Yes.
I would ask that Mr. Daniele be accepted as an expert witness in petroleum geology.
Your request is granted.
Nick, have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits for this hearing?
I have.
Starting with Exhibit 4, would you please describe the structure of the Middle Bakken for the lands that are subject to this hearing?
Yeah, Exhibit 4 is a subsea structure map on top of the Middle Bakken. The strike of the structure here is east-west and slightly dipping from north to south.
Is the proposed spacing unit imposed on the structure map?
Yes, sir. Shown in the red box.
And have you identified a type log?
Yes, sir. That is the middle well in the upcoming section, Exhibit 5.
And that's part of the yellow line, which is your cross-section, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 5, please describe the cross-section and identify the type log.
This cross-section is from AA Prime, A being on the west side of the unit, Prime from the eastern portion of the unit. The Middle Bakken is highlighted, or sorry, let me back up. The type log is highlighted in the middle of the Easter B 111, with the Middle Bakken target highlighted as well. From left to right along the tracks for each well is Gamma Ray in Track 1, Regis Tudu in Track 2, and Broski in Track 3.
Okay, and do you also have the reservoir characteristics down at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
Would you please describe those?
Yes, sir. There was a typo on the exhibit initially. The approximate TV is 9,300 feet, not 9,000. I already have that updated. We submit a new exhibit if it needs to be submitted. Average porosity for the Middle Bakken here is 7%. Average water saturation is about 30%, and gross average thickness is 49 feet.
Is the Middle Bakken present continuous across the entire spacing unit?
Yes, sir.
And if this application is approved, will waste be prevented, relative rights protected, and the drilling of unnecessary wells prevented?
Yes.
And can you submit your revised exhibit by the end of tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
I would like to ask that the exhibits be admitted into the record, 4 and 5, and have the record left open for him to submit the corrected Exhibit 5 that he just testified to.
Exhibit is received, and we will keep the record open until close of business on Friday.
Okay. Did you hear that, Nick?
Yep.
Any additional questions?
No additional questions from
Staff.
Daniele.
Does staff have any questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Daniele. Counsel, you may call your next witness.
Our next witness is Mr. Brandon Allen, who is also on the telephone. Brandon, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Allen. Could you raise your right hand, please?
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
All right, you may proceed.
Brandon, would you please state your name and work address for the record?
My name is Brandon Allen. I work for Phoenix Operating LLC. Work address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado 80237.
And in what capacity do you work for Phoenix?
I am the Vice President of Reservoir Engineering.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert in petroleum engineering matters before this commission?
I am.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
I am.
I would ask that Mr. Allen be accepted as an expert witness in petroleum engineering.
Your request is granted.
Brandon, have you prepared or caused to be prepared certain exhibits?
Yes, I have.
Beginning with Exhibit 6, please describe Phoenix's proposed wellbore diagram.
Yeah. Exhibit 6 is an example wellbore diagram whereby we would set surface casing just below the air formation at approximately 2,000 feet with an intermediate 7 casing string set just below landing into the middle Bakken, and then a 4.5-inch liner that's set approximately 500 feet above the kickoff point.
Okay, going on to Exhibit 7, would you please describe Phoenix's proposed development plan for this unit?
Yes, Phoenix's proposed development plan is 3-mile lateral in the middle Bakken with approximately 1,120 feet spacing in between wells.
On your legend on this exhibit, you have a yellow dotted line labeled Future Middle Bakken Horizontal Well. Do you see that?
Yes.
When does Phoenix intend to drill the future well?
In the north half of the northwest quarter of Section 1 is a federal trap, and that is under dispute currently. So we would need to wait until that dispute is settled in order to get a federal APD in order to drill that well. And it would be a lease line well that we would have to form a larger spacing unit with sections 36, 31, and 32 just to the north.
And does Phoenix intend to batch drill the wells that are labeled in green on this exhibit?
Yes, we do.
Okay, using Exhibit 8, would you discuss the economics of a 3-mile lateral?
Yes, our current economics are an initial production rate of approximately 30,000 barrels of oil per month, well of almost 30 years, an EUR of approximately 485,000 barrels, and a gas EUR of approximately 1 BCF. Given current commodity prices and a D&C cost of approximately $9.5 million, the rate of return is 25% and a PV10 of almost $13 million and a payout just over 2 years.
Okay, and then last is Exhibit 9, your gas capture affidavit.
I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, but we are in discussions with One Oak. Their main trunk line in this area is approximately 2 miles to the north. It runs along the Section 26 of the ARN unit, the unit that Mark Johnson testified to earlier in Exhibit 2. 26 of Section 160-100. It runs to the east along that along those sections. They have capacity for us in that trunk line, and they also have processing capacity. Those lines go to their plant up near Crosby to the north and to the east.
And for the record, Exhibit 9 is an affidavit of Mark Johnson, who is president, if the staff has any questions on it.
Correct.
I have no further questions for Mr. Allen and ask that exhibits be admitted into the record. I believe it's 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yes. Okay.
Brandon, on Exhibit 7, are you planning on using a single pad for all 5 wells?
We would likely use that for all 5 wells. That is correct.
And do you know where that would be located at?
It is our current spot and working towards an SUA with the surface sounder is in the northeast quarter of Section 5, pretty close to kind of the middle of the Section 5, almost on the lead. For the section line, I call it.
And then I assume the well that's on the north side of that has the federal track included will come off of that pad eventually once that's handled.
That's correct.
Good, thanks.
Any additional questions?
Brandon, I missed it. Where did you say the unleased federal acreage was?
I'm unclear on these, but the federal tract is in the north half of the northwest quarter of Section 1.
And this is probably for you, Tom. The advertising in this advertised for the Berg or Green Lake Bakken pool. And BERG is a field in North Dakota, but not this one.
Oh.
It's BURG.
Uh-oh.
So we will make a note of that for the record, but since the specific location was advertised, we would not deem that to be substantial.
I would agree.
Okay, thank you.
Brandon, this is Bruce Hicks. You described the federal tract. What I think would be in order would be an exhibit identifying that, give the location of it, the size of the acreage, and then I think we would also need a description showing the size of it, so that north well that you drill, we would want to know in relation to it how far away you were from it.
Okay.
And you're asking for 4 horizontal wells on Exhibit 7. Those are proposed in green. You understand that if you want to drill that north one in orange, that you'll have to make a separate application for that.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you.
Our proposed northern green development well is approximately 50 feet south of the tract that contains the federal minerals. But I can update an exhibit to show the.
Okay, thank you.
Brandon, can you have that exhibit done by the end of the week as well?
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions from staff? My mic was previously off. Exhibits 6 through 8 are accepted, and council can recall Mr. Johnson for Exhibit 9. Do you have any additional questions for Mr. Allen?
I have no additional questions for Mr. Allen.
All right, thank you, Mr. Allen.
Okay, Mark, I call you again. Are you familiar with the Exhibit 9, the gas capture affidavit?
I am.
And are you personally familiar with the efforts that Phoenix is undertaking to capture the gas produced?
I am.
And this is your affidavit?
Yes, it is.
I have no further questions for Mr. Johnson.
All right.
Ask that Exhibit 9 be admitted into the record.
Exhibit is received. Any additional questions from staff? If anything else regarding case number 30132, council?
No, other than the record will be open till the end of the week for an additional geology exhibit and an additional engineering exhibit.
It will, and so that, so there's no further testimony on case number 30132, and the hearing will be concluded for that matter today, but the record will be kept open until close of business on Friday, So next on the docket is case number 30048. Before I read this, the description, do you have a request from us, council, for us, council?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Phoenix would like to continue this matter to the July docket. We will submit a written request to Bethany by this afternoon to continue that docket to the July docket.
All right, your request will be granted, and if you submit that information to Bethany, that would be excellent. And it looks like that concludes the hearing in the case. The hearings for today, based upon today's docket, and the hearing will be closed. We'll go off the record. Thank you.